Michael Saylor says that today is a big strategy day for Bitcoin, and a lot of people are speculating whether the strategic Bitcoin reserve will be announced today. But it's likely something completely different and has nothing to do with the strategic Bitcoin reserve. However, it could still have a massive impact on Bitcoin and in a positive way. Let's take a look at this. Also, there's a leak from yesterday's press conference with David Sachs, where it becomes clear again that the strategic Bitcoin reserve here is very, very likely that it will come. A lot of people are interpreting this into the scene now. He also talks in a new interview about how Bitcoin is a store of value. So, it's a really good store of value. And he also says that the sovereign wealth fund, meaning the state fund in the US, could definitely hold Bitcoin. There was definitely disappointment at the crypto conference here yesterday, where David Sachs spoke. Many were expecting a big announcement, but in the end, there was no major announcement. Now, here comes the next statement from Michael Saylor, and a lot of people are speculating about it again. Whether a strategic Bitcoin reserve is coming here. He says it's a big strategy day, but that obviously has nothing to do with a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Instead, today we have the quarterly numbers being released for MicroStrategy. That's also the reason why MicroStrategy hasn't bought any Bitcoin this week. Because they're somehow not allowed to do that from a regulatory standpoint, but rather focus on quarterly numbers. But what's really crazy here is that a lot of people are expecting that a massive announcement could be coming here, and that the fixed regulation at MicroStrategy is also being applied here. Something like that would also be applied here at Tesla, where the stocks just shot up massively. After that has been applied, where you basically realize the unrealized gains, and that makes the stock value shoot up. The market capitalization is shooting up because the current stock value is still being accounted for at a lower price. And that's basically one reason. What Michael Saylor says that Bitcoin is going to 5 million as soon as the fixed regulation is done. And a lot of people are speculating about it now, because he says here, big strategic day, where not only the quarterly numbers are being released, but that maybe something will change here with the fixed regulation. But that's pure speculation. No one can know that. If that happens, it would definitely be very, very crazy. That would definitely push MicroStrategy forward. Bitcoin would push it forward and would definitely be a positive sign for the overall market. That here, other companies are also seeing, hey, you can hold Bitcoin as a company, and it's really, really profitable. And now something really, really crazy has happened. I didn't even notice that. Yesterday, the crypto Caesar spoke here at the crypto conference, where everyone was going wild speculating about it. There's a really, really big announcement coming now. He also mentioned that he sees a strategic Bitcoin reserve as a priority here, that they will evaluate that. And now a few people have taken a look behind the scenes, how the people reacted here. The ones standing around David Sachs, and a lot of people are interpreting this scene that I'm showing you. Now it shows that a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the US is already a done deal. Check this out and take a really close look in the background. Here, David Sachs is actually talking about Bitcoin and a strategic reserve. And then you really pay close attention to the facial expression and especially the eyes. And the reaction happens really shortly after David Sachs essentially brings up about Bitcoin or hold, brings up the strategic Bitcoin reserve, and then this reaction happens. So, if that wasn't a confident wink, did you just see that? If not, rewind it a bit.
What he encouraged us to do was to evaluate the idea of a Bitcoin reserve. And that's one of the first things we look at as part of.
The whole thing has almost 500,000 views already. Here you can see it again, how he kind of laughs here, where the Bitcoin strategy reserve or Bitcoin stockpile is mentioned just before. And that's basically how the expression is here. Many might know him, where in the end, a lot of rich people know, okay, what's going on? We already know that the strategy reserve is coming. We fill our bags, they're laughing their asses off, and the people in the cheap seats, or the regular retailers, the average folks, they just have no clue what's going on here. And that's what it is in the end. Here you can see it a little better. Here you can see David Sachs in the front. And maybe they already know things. The average folks don't even know yet. I mean, additionally, you have to say, as mentioned before, this is pure speculation. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It could also be that they were just making a joke here, or something like that. There was something funny here, they were winking at each other, and so on. But that's pretty similar to what happens at a Fed conference. You start reading into things, and when Jerome Powell raises his right hand, you think, okay, now interest rates are going up. When he brings them down, you think the interest rates are going down, and so on. Isn't it sometimes important not to overinterpret things? But it's definitely interesting to take a look behind the scenes here. And really, let's say, studying the facial expressions and gestures of such people, and maybe be able to draw some conclusions from that. So feel free to drop your speculations in the comments. I always like to speculate a bit. Although, to be honest, you have to say that. These are pure speculations. So feel free to drop your conspiracy theories in the comments. But we also have some solid things, because shortly after this press conference, David Sacks was invited to a CNBC interview, and he really dropped some massive bombs here that we're going to take a look at now, that also affect Bitcoin.
Currency and blockchain technology in general. As we're now in the Trump administration era, we're in the back half of the 2020s. Back 5 years ago plus, there was talks about, using it as a means of buying things. Now it's more about the store of value and the way, perhaps hedge against inflation in various currencies. What do you see as the real value and the reason why the United States government should be paying so much attention to it?
Well, I think there's a few different aspects here when you're talking about digital aspects. So first of all, you got Bitcoin. It was the first digital currency, and it's the original. It's the strongest one. In the parlance of the industry, it's the most lindy, meaning it's been around for over a dozen years now. No one's ever hacked it. No one's ever cracked the security around it. And so it is an excellent store of value. So that would be point number one. Bitcoin is run on, as you know, a blockchain. It's basically a distributed ledger, which is essentially a form of decentralized computing. And that platform can be used to create a lot of other types of products. And so that would be sort of technology area number two, is all the innovation that can be built on top of blockchains.
So that's already something here. Crazy statements. You really have to say that because there's a lot of speculation going on. Okay, is a crypto stockpile coming? Is a Bitcoin stockpile coming? But here the crypto Caesar makes it very clear again. Hey, Bitcoin is the strongest currency. And that's a very clear plea for Bitcoin. Because a lot of people have said, hey, you can't really build a meme coin stockpile or something like that. And it really looks like David Sacks clearly recognizes this as well. No. There are other cryptocurrencies. They're all well and good, but Bitcoin is definitely the strongest currency here. He says it's the first currency, and he says it has the biggest Lindy effect. That means Bitcoin has been around the longest, the network is the biggest, and that's where, of course, the network is the largest, where the duration is already the longest. It's also the hardest to take down the network. That means the Lindy effect is really, really important. The longer a network exists, and the bigger, the longer this network exists, the harder it is to take it down again. And he also says that it has never been hacked. And now here comes the big kicker. He says it's a superstore of value. And this really comes from someone close to Donald Trump. Advisory team, which is very actively involved in the evaluation for the stockpile. And if it really is a superstore of value, and that's really the key here for the stockpile, then it's very likely that Bitcoin will definitely be included. Or, it might definitely happen. Stuff like that comes up, and people are interpreting it again. That's just interpretation again, and so on. But you can't be ultra bullish on Bitcoin on one hand, and say, hey, it's a superstore of value. Strongest currency, first currency, strong Lindy effect. Then he also says it's decentralized. He also checks that you can't just take it down that easily. It's decentralized, not like our regular banking system. Decentralized. And those are some bold statements that you can definitely stand by. You can sign and where you can really hope for something now. That the focus is really on Bitcoin. Because in the end, that gives a bit of hope again. That basically no random shitcoin reserve stuff comes in here. I don't have anything against Bitcoin or anything like that. I don't want to downplay it or something like that. But I'll say it again. When it comes to a strategic reserve for a country, it just doesn't make sense to throw in some meme coins or something like that. That might not even exist in 5 or 6 years. That's why he's bringing up the Lindy effect here. Because the Lindy effect is just so important for the consistency of something. That means the stronger the Lindy effect, the stronger the Lindy effect. The longer it takes for something to potentially disappear again. That means, for example, gold has a massive Lindy effect until gold disappears again. That's not going to happen overnight, but that will, if anything, happen over a very, very long process. Eventually, if anything, gold might still have some use. And that something like this is understood here already, is really very, very valuable here. He also says you can still build products on blockchain, on Bitcoin, and so on. That's probably what they mean here. Stablecoins and stuff like that. You could also build second layer solutions and stuff like that on Bitcoin. Something like what Tether might want to do now, with stablecoins, over the Lightning Network and who knows what else. So, sure, there are still plenty of possibilities, where you can, let's say, express creativity. And then, as you can clearly observe, he has another one right over here.
The feasibility of a Bitcoin reserve, you said that's being studied. It's one of the first things that's on the table here. What goes into that process? Is that something that would be standalone, or is that something that could potentially be tucked into, say, a sovereign wealth fund, which has been the speculation today on the heels of that executive order?
I guess it's possible that the sovereign wealth fund could decide that they want to make Bitcoin or digital assets part of its portfolio. You're going to have to ask the incoming Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick about that. The item that President Trump asked our working group on digital assets to study is whether it's feasible to create either a Bitcoin reserve or some sort of digital asset stockpile. And so we're going to be looking at that question. We haven't committed yet to doing it, but it's one of the first things we're going to be looking at.
So he clearly confirms that Bitcoin is also part of the sovereign wealth fund here in the U.S. It can happen, which has already been confirmed by executive order. And that would be massive. That you basically have Bitcoin in the sovereign wealth fund and then also have Bitcoin in the strategic Bitcoin reserve and then on a state level, and all those little strategic Bitcoin reserves at the state level as well. Bitcoin has, and this could really happen now. He also emphasizes again that it's an absolute priority to evaluate if they're going to create a Bitcoin stockpile, a crypto stockpile, whether they're going to mix it up. So, as we've seen from the previous statements, Bitcoin will definitely be included here. The question is, how much shitcoin or how much crypto is still included? But probably, if you just take the previous statements into account. At least Bitcoin will be the big part here, like making 70% Bitcoin, for example. And then, if you ask me, you could still make it like 30% Bitcoin. Or you really decide to just take Bitcoin here and not take any other Bitcoin. I mean, we can really be very, very curious about that, how this will play out further. But that might still take a while. So they said it could take half a year. There will probably be a team coordinated first, and then it will be evaluated. And until the results come in, then half a year goes by, and maybe other nations have already stocked up. So it's really, really exciting to see how this will unfold. And now, one big call. Just 3 days left until the launch of the Bitcoin Advantage. If you want to be part of it, there's still a chance. I'll put a link down below where you can join the Telegram group. On the waitlist, we're already close to 1,000 people. Here, there's always free value added regularly, so feel free to join. It doesn't cost anything at all. You can definitely be part of it and will also get first access to the Bitcoin Advantage, including the live call that will take place in 3 days. As I said, I'll put a link down below if you want to buy Bitcoin now. I'll also include a link below. 21 Bitcoin, where you can easily and securely buy Bitcoin. Here, you can get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin with the code Bitcoin. Guys, see you later. Peace out.